You know, it's one of those topics a lot of people think about, but almost nobody talks about out loud. What happens when the attraction just fades in a marriage? Today, we're going to break down a pretty controversial perspective from a popular online coach to really get a handle on his diagnosis and his proposed solution.
So this is the million-dollar question, right? It's the whole reason we're here. Why does this even happen? The argument we're about to dig into suggests it's a super common, but kind of silent crisis that plays out without either person really getting what's going on.
Okay, so first things first, the source wants to make it clear that this isn't some rare, bizarre problem. The whole argument is that this is a surprisingly normal dynamic that's happening behind closed doors all over the place.
So why is it so quiet? Why isn't this talked about? Well, according to this perspective, it all comes down to fear. The fear that if she says, "Hey, I'm not attracted to you anymore," that it's an automatic marriage ender. But the silence, he argues, just lets the real problem sit there and get worse, leaving the husband totally clueless. All right, so this brings us to the real heart of the diagnosis, what the source calls the attraction paradox. And it's all built on this idea that there's a major conflict between the kind of man a woman is drawn to and the kind of man she tries to build inside the relationship. So here's how the argument is framed. If you were to ask a woman what she wants in a perfect partner, the list she gives you would actually have qualities that, from this point of view, completely contradict each other. It's like she wants two different guys all rolled into one. And here's where we see that paradox in black and white. On one side, the source claims she's first attracted to that strong, focused, decisive guy, what he calls the alpha male. But then, once they're actually in the relationship, the argument is that she starts to chip away at that, trying to mold him into someone who's more agreeable, more subservient, someone who asks for permission. He becomes, in the speaker's own words, her lackey. And that's the kicker, right? That's the huge irony here. In her attempt to make the relationship more harmonious, she ends up systematically getting rid of the exact assertive qualities that made her attracted to him in the first place. So this whole dynamic, it leads to what the source calls the ultimate kill switch for attraction. And it all boils down to a single powerful concept: respect. I mean, look at this quote. This is the entire thesis right here. The speaker is crystal clear. A loss of attraction is just a symptom. The real disease is a loss of respect. In this worldview, you can't separate the two. So, you might be asking, how does this loss of respect actually happen? Well, the source lays it out in this kind of four-step chain reaction. Step 1, it starts with demands. Step 2, he complies. He just gives in to avoid a fight. But, and here's the twist, this constant compliance is seen as him having no backbone, which leads directly to step 3. She loses respect for him. And once that respect is gone, poof. Step 4, the attraction vanishes. It's presented as this predictable, almost inevitable process.
Okay, but it's not just about saying yes all the time. The speaker points to another huge factor that he believes chips away at respect: how a man expresses his emotional vulnerability.
Now, this is a very specific and I'd say pretty controversial take on it. The source argues that when a man shows his wife he's emotionally vulnerable, it's not seen as a sign of strength or a way to build intimacy. Nope, it's actually seen as effeminate, a sign of weakness.
So what's the logic behind that? The argument is pretty deep. It's that when he's vulnerable with her, her subconscious brain goes, if he can't even handle me, how can he possibly handle the real world out there? And that perception makes him seem less capable and, you guessed it, less attractive.
Okay, so after painting this pretty bleak picture of the problem, the source doesn't just leave you hanging. He offers a solution. And honestly, it's probably not what you'd expect. It's very counterintuitive.
So what's the big fix? It's kind of a complete 180. The problem, according to this, isn't that you're not interested enough in her, it's that you're too interested. So the advice is to actually pull back, spend less time with her, spend more time with your friends, put all that energy back into your own life, your own goals. The idea is that this puts him back on his own mission, separate from her, which is framed as the core of masculine attraction.
To just boil it all down to one single piece of advice, it's this: you have to create a little distance to get that desire back. By being less available and more wrapped up in his own world, the man supposedly rebuilds that independent strength that got her attention in the first place.
And that really leaves us with this big, final question that kind of sums up this whole perspective. Is a certain level of detachment, that masculine independence, is that the real secret to keeping desire alive for the long haul? It's a really provocative idea, and it definitely pushes back on a lot of the conventional wisdom we hear about intimacy in a relationship.